Hey crafty people, welcome back to my channel, and in case you're new here, I'm Sarah, also known as Craft Nerd because I'm a nerd who loves to craft. I do paper crafting, card making, junk journaling, and mixed media art. Let's get crafting! Oh, welcome to my channel. In case you're new, for the year 2026, each month I'm kind of focusing on a craft supply in my stash. And I decided for May, we're going to focus on a lot of craft supplies because we're doing kind of mixed media for the month of May because I like the alliteration. And so today I think I just want to play around and make some collage fodder. And so I have pulled out some antique and vintage book page. I've got some packaging material that's like a little lighter weight, I think, than like the brown cardboard or the brown stuff you get from Amazon, but heavier than like a tissue paper. I've got some tissue paper buried in here somewhere. Oh, over here. And then I've got some of this is the Artist Loft mixed media paper, which quite frankly is not heavy enough to stand up to much in the way of mixed media, but since we're just going to be doing like watery inky backgrounds and then stamping on top, this should be fine. And it's also light enough weight that it's not too bulky to be good collage fodder. So let's start with the first idea. Is one I saw, I think it's Andrea Nelson did it. I will verify and leave a link to her YouTube channel down below, but it's a variation on the bubble blowing painty technique, where usually you like dilute acrylic paint in some water, add some soap and blow bubbles, and then blow the bubbles onto your paper. She did something a little different. She put the paint on a piece of cling wrap, blew the bubbles onto the paper, and then put the cling wrap onto the bubbles on the paper. So this should make sense as we go. Let me move stuff out of the way. I'm using my watercolor paints because that's what I want to use. And I want to do it a few times because I want to try it on a couple different substrates to see how it goes. All right, let me wet my watercolors. And I just realized I sat down without actually having grabbed any paintbrushes to use with the watercolors. Let me go grab that. All right, so I kind of want to do like a rainbowy color effect. So I'm just gonna grab colors, and yeah, they're gonna bead up and not really stick to this, but that's fine for what we're doing. All right, so I need to set that aside, and actually I think what I'm just going to do is slip this out from underneath, move my paint palette off to the side, set this over here, add water to my dish which has soap in it, stir that up. Hopefully I've got my ratio right, and we're gonna just blow bubbles. I'm gonna need more water. Come on, let go of the bowl and move on to the paper. That's not cooperating. Okay, let's flip our watercolor over onto our bubbles on the paper and kind of press it down. Not sure how well that's gonna work. I think my bubbles did not do so great. All right, I'm gonna set this off to the side and let it dry. That got very, very wet. All right, let's do another one and see if we can get a it to work a little bit easier. Let's try doing it on mixed media paper. Hopefully this will go smoother. I did grab some more dish soap because I think I might just need to add a little bit more dish soap. So let me do that. Add a little bit more water. We're gonna just add paint again. Woo. Got my cling wraps running away over there. Just gonna do blues and teals and maybe some greens and purples instead of the full rainbow. Let's try the bubble blowing again and see if we can get better results this time. I think I know what my problem is. I've got a fan on. And I think that's popping the bubbles. All right, come on. So I don't know how successful. I don't know if this is going to be any more successful. Come on, get off of here and get onto the paper. Let's try putting this over. I think we're gonna get a little bit this time from the bubbles. Not as much as I'd like, but you know, we're experimenting. And yeah, Florida, once it gets hot, ceiling fans are a must. All right, let me move this out of the way and I'll be back. Okay, I want to try an experiment. I've got out my Lindy Stampin' Gang Magicals, and I figured I'd do this before we dump the soapy water out. I'm going to sprinkle some powdered pigment on here. Gonna kind of spread it out thin. And that was Tibetan Poppy Teal. This one's Frenchie's Pink Poof. Oop, that is plenty. And I turned my fan way down, so hopefully it'll work a little bit better this time. T-Bird Turquoise, and this one's a flat magical. The other two, no, actually Tibetan Teal is the only one that's got sparkle in it. And we're gonna just see what happens if we put some powdered pigment down. And then I've got Foxglove Fushcia, and then blow the bubbles on top. I'm also gonna grab a palette knife to use that to help move the bubbles off, hopefully. All right, let's try this again. Ooh, I think we might be getting the colors a little muddy, perhaps. And don't worry, this straw is a strictly crafting straw. Don't know that we're getting any of the like bubbliness on here, but I figured it was worth a try. Let's see what happens when we heat it, because that'll probably pop the bubbles. Oh, that just made everything go bye-bye. All right, so not exactly a success, and I can't actually like move this. So I don't think I can move it. It is very wet. It is very wet under there. I almost want to take another paper and put it on top and see what that does. Well, I lifted some of the color off. I think this has gone so translucent because it's so wet. It's hard to know what's actually on there at this point. I do kind of feel like I should brush it and smooth the color around in some spots, like over here, since obviously we're not getting a bubble effect. So I might as well just spread out some of the thick spots of color. And no worries, this is really just step one. All right, let me go put this off where it can dry. I think this just needs more color added. So what I'm gonna do is get it a little wet. Ooh, it's got some crystals on it. Let's see what it does. Thinking I was gonna add more powders to it, but we may have sufficient on there. I'm gonna grab my heat tool because I kind of like what it's doing over here. There are a few spots like over here I want to add a little bit more water to while leaving this alone because I really kind of like how it feathered out over there. All right, I am going to move this into the other room because I have got like a clothes drying rack that I use for drying papers that I'm going to put this on. I'm going to dump the soapy water, have a bit of a cleanup, and we'll play with some other stuff. I've pulled out my Prima Colour a la Cremes water-soluble oil pastels, which I have had for years and haven't used in I don't even know how long. Probably years. So we are gonna, I've got 2 pieces of the tissue paper. Actually, I think I might go with a third because it's regular tissue paper, not wet strength. So when I got one of the pieces wet, it doesn't love that. So I figure if I put a couple down, we scribble on here, we add water, we could get a few in one go. So I'm just gonna scribble some color on the top one. So this is one of those products, it's water reactive, and then once it's dry, it's permanent. And yeah, I'm kind of going purples and greens and blues again, because that's like my default color combo. Alright, not sure what's gonna happen when we hit this with water, so we'll see. Alright, let's see what happens. Not as much movement as I would like, and I don't know if it's because they're just so old, or the tissue paper, or what. We'll try it on a regular piece of paper and see what happens. I am not sure if this is going to bleed through at all, or what this is going to do. It may have bled through. I just may be able to see it through because it's so thin. I'm gonna go put this off to dry, and we're gonna try it on some actual paper and see what happens. It's the same artist loft. I can talk, really. I can. Artist Loft paper that I previously grabbed. It's just a smaller size, and let's see what happens on paper. Let's test it out before we go. Now let's go ahead and do the whole thing. We'll see what we get. Kind of add a little bit of the magenta in. So I'll mix it in, see what happens. The worst that happens is it's kind of meh, and we play around with it some more and do some other stuff with it. See what happens this time. Okay, yeah, definitely the tissue paper, although it's still not blending out as smoothly as I would like. that definitely worked better on the paper than it did on that tissue. I am gonna go put this to dry and pull something else out because, yeah, seriously, I am just playing around with the stuff I have in my supplies today. I have pulled out some Dr. P.H. Martin Bombay India inks, and every time I look at the labeling on these, I want to go Bombay Sapphire, which is a brand of gin. But that's what comes to mind every single time I look at them. So I grabbed a variety of blues and purples again. So I've got turquoise blue, aqua, green, teal, grass green, and violet. And I'm going to be very careful because I have played with these before and dumped a bottle all over something. So I am just gonna kind of do this and then see what happens. Because I know they're water reactive while wet, but permanent once dry. And that might have been too dry. Yeah, well, we can get some movement. All right, let's cap it and grab a different color. So that's the aqua. Let's do some blue. I think the blue is the one I dumped because it's much lower than the other one. So I'm just kind of doing swirly lines, and I'm okay that we're going to still have some harsh lines in here because I figure that might make for some interesting, like we could do pen work or something. I don't know, play around with it once it's dry. But I'm not mad at the fact that I'm getting lines. This is the turquoise. Yes. And some green. I'm kind of going back over the wet areas too, just having a bit of a play. That's pretty much all we're doing this video, is playing with stuff to create some interesting backgrounds, potentially, hopefully. Or collage fodder, stuff we can rip up and use on pieces. It definitely does not want to move as much. I feel like I want to come back in over the wet area and have a bit of a play where it'll move a little more. The problem is it's so stinking hot here. I've got to wet stuff faster. Okay, I'm gonna go set this over to dry, and you'll notice, despite all of the water I put on, this corner's almost dry already. Yeah, it's stinking hot here. All right, I kind of want to have a bit of more of a play with the India inks, but this time on an already wet surface. So I'm gonna spray this. Grab my brush. And I definitely want the purple and the teal back in, and maybe a little aqua, possibly some green. Still not wet enough. Ah, Florida. Oh, that's cool. Like how it just feathers out. And that may be in large part due to the paper I'm using, which is some antique Shakespeare. All right, let's add some teal in there. Pull in some more of the purple, and then I think I'm gonna leave this because I like what it's doing. Now, if you didn't have Bombay inks, this is something you could so totally try with distress sprays, if you've got those. They won't be permanent when dry like these will. but you could get a similar effect using them. I kind of want to pull in the Lindy's Tibetan Poppy Teal and put a few drops of that in here. I want a smaller brush than the one I usually use because I just want to add a few little spots. Spray that so that it moves. And maybe drag the brush through. I think I may be hitting the overworking it part. Although I feel like it needs more purple now that I put too much teal in. All right, let's do a little bit more purple just to bring the purple back in, and then we're gonna leave it alone. Now is a good time to leave it alone because I could also come back once it's dry and add more color because this layer will be permanent once I've dried it. So I'll be back. Okay, so I had a lot of water in some spots, so I grabbed like a piece of scrap copy paper, and too much came up over here. So what I'm gonna do, because now that this is dry, it's permanent, I'm gonna wet again and come back in with my inks again and bring back in some more interest in the areas that kind of blurred out. All right, now I'm gonna leave this to dry completely and we'll see what it looks like once it is done. So I had a bit of a play off camera and I got some really cool effects using bubble wrap. So I figured let me do some on camera, and I'm gonna switch it up a little bit because this was done with like watercolors and this was some Lindy Stampin' Gang's powder pigments, and I want to try using my sprays because that'll cover a surface faster. And I've actually got 3 different sizes of bubble wrap. So the one you saw, we're using like the standard size bubble wrap. So I've got some of that out. Then I got some Tina Tana bubble wrap pieces. And then I got a piece with some. So we're gonna see what results we get using these guys. So I'm gonna grab a piece of the Artist Loft paper. And I am going to spray it with water to get it wet. And pull out, I've got some Salvaged Patina. I've got Lindy's Starburst Squirts in Looney Tune Teal. That's, ooh, and it's got some dust on it that I just got onto there, which shows you how often I use it. And I've got Moonshadow Mist Tawny Turquoise, which has a pigment in it, so I've got to shake it up. I'm gonna dust it off a little bit off camera and give it a couple spritzes. Ooh. Now this is one, it's got brown in it and the teal, so depending on how the light hits it affects the color. I've also got Moonshadow Mist in Buccaneer Bay Blue. And finally, some Tibetan Poppy Teal, which I also have in the powder form because it's a color I really like. All right, I am going to spray it with some water again because I want to get everything kind of moving around before I put the bubble wrap on it. let's actually kind of do this, kind of get it smooshed around, because I really want coverage, not splotchiness for this. Feel like it needs some more just to ensure it's wet enough. I like that. What I'm gonna do so I can then move this out of the way is I'm taking the bubble wrap. Don't want to get all of that spritz on it, and I am putting it ink side down on my bubble wrap, and I'm gonna go put this on a drying rack. Now I flipped it over on the drying rack so the bubble wrap was on top. Let's grab, this is just plain old like regular copy paper, and I'm gonna use it to kind of clean up this and maybe try the small bubble wrap. Now this is gonna require a delicate hand because it is not a thick paper, so it is not going to love a ton of water. But I think to get the effects I want, it definitely needs to be very wet, so we shall see how this goes. Let's do a full cleanup. Then I think what I may do is grab thing with the small bubble wrap, and it's like a huge piece. So what we're gonna do is we're going to set our paper down, get it wetter, and add some sprays to it, and then fold the bubble wrap over it and see what effect we get when we do that. Fold this over and do that. And then what I think I'm gonna do is take another piece of paper, put that on top, and we're actually gonna shift color for this one. I want to grab a paintbrush and just kind of blend this out. So that's what I'm going to do. Just going to grab a paintbrush and go like that. Now oxides will tend to take over the distress spray stain because the spray stains are translucent while the oxides are semi-opaque. And we are going to fold that over. I think we're gonna need to shift that down a little. Hopefully that works okay. And I'm gonna go set this aside and let it dry. Right, and we'll I cleaned up. I put some of the regular bubble wrap down and another piece of the copy paper, and I'm gonna do the green and brown colors again. And we're actually gonna do one more with these colors because I peeked at the large bubble wrap one, and I think that one's gonna be really freaking cool. So we're gonna do one of these in that one, and this time instead of spraying it because it was very intense, we're gonna do this and just blend it out. I think that's good. Let's fold this over. We're gonna do something on top, but I want to do a different color on top, so I'm gonna set this off to the side for a minute and then pull over. I'm gonna try a sheet of tracing paper and see what happens if we do that. We'll do the same color combo and do it onto a big bubble wrap piece. So I'm gonna just get ourselves wet to start and add our sprays. Take this, I'm gonna flip the piece onto it and then go put it on a rack to dry. All right, we are having a bit of a color change. I've got, this is the Artist Loft mixed media paper that does not work well for mixed media. And I've grabbed Distress Spray Stain in Villenous Potion, Oxide in Wilted Violet, and then I grabbed my Lindy Stamping Gang Violacious Violet. So let's start with that one. And this is another one that's like, looks brown, but when the light hits it just right, you get the purple, and it's really kind of cool. So moving, and I think I should have skipped the Wilted Violet. We're going to do another one with this color palette, so I can skip it for that one. All right, let's add more of the Lindys. And I'm going to put it on this upside down, like so, and then go move this into the other room. And I'll flip it so the bubble wrap's pressing into the paper. And then we got one more sheet, and we've got the large bubble wrap. So let's clean up, then wet this some more. Then I'll go let dogs out, clean up. Large bubble wrap. All right, I am going to try not to get paint all over the bubble wrap or spray all over the bubble wrap. And I don't know if you can see on screen what it's starting to do in here, but I think these are going to be really cool. Let's take a look at the ones we did last time, which honestly, I did this like a week ago, and I'm now finishing up filming. So I think this one we did, I don't even remember. I think it was the Dr. P.H. Martin's, like this one, but I definitely pulled something else in because I'm seeing the sparkly shimmer from something that had mica in it, and I don't remember what that was. But I really like how this one is and how this one came out. Like these, I just want to leave as is and cut and use like that. Kind of feeling the same way about the rainbow one that we did. Now, I got a little bit of the bubble impression, but definitely was struggling with getting the bubbles onto the paper fast enough for this technique to work. The same with this one. I really like the colors and where we got the bubble effect. So I think I'm going to leave this as is and then just isolate the parts that I really like and add more inking or stuff to the other spots. This one, which we used the water-soluble oil pastels, and I apparently had two sheets together because it faded through to this one, which you can barely see the color on. Let me pull out a piece of white paper so maybe we can see what it actually looks like. So that is very like faint. So I think I'm going to leave this alone for now because I don't know what the heck I'd want to do with that. Other than use it on something as a faint like first background. This needs help. This is just sad looking with all the scribbly lines. Not loving that one. So we're going to play around with that one some. This one, I really liked what happened over here, so I don't want to mess with that. So maybe we cut it in half. I don't know. I'm debating. I'm on the fence about leaving it alone versus doing something else to it. Like on this half. No, let's cut it in half. This one I'm gonna leave alone. I like the effects, so I don't want to mess with it anymore. This one I think maybe we will try doing some stuff with and see what we get. So we'll set that one off to that side. This one is the same as this guy, just on the Artist Loft paper, so we got a little bit more blending, but still not loving it. I don't think I did this one on camera. I just used a bunch of the Lindy Stamping Gangs powders on here to get a little faint color on. That one I'm going to leave as is. This is another one that I think I used Lindy's on and got some cool colors going. And I think because I've got the book page in the background, I'm going to leave this one as is. I really like this. I really like it. I really want to wait until I go to use it to do anything more on it, because I think probably some like scripty stamping, but what color I might want to use, I think will depend on how I'm going to use this piece. I feel kind of the same about these other pieces that I did off camera with the bubble wrap, that they're kind of cool, and especially these because they're tissue will be neat to just put on and then decide. Maybe actually we'll take this one and do a little bit of stamping on it to add a little bit more interest. So that's what we're going to do for that one. And this one, because of the bits of gold in it, I kind of want to do some doodling with a gold pen. I put everybody off to the side, and right now I'm just trying to decide if I want to try using this gold pen or if I want to grab my Posca pens. Let's start with this and see where we get. Let's scribble a little, because I'm kind of feeling like just doing a few like scribbly vines with leaves on it. I hit pause for a second and then forgot to turn you back on. But I just drew this in. All right, I think that's good enough. I don't know how well this is showing up on camera because of the sparkliness. Not sure I love how that came out, but it's all about playing around with the stuff you have to create some stuff that you can then use as backgrounds later. All right, these guys, I think I'm gonna pull out some stamps. So let me get out the stamps I need. So I think for this guy, I'm gonna pull out the water-soluble oil pastels, because you can put them on your stamps and wet the stamp and stamp with it. So I think I'm trying to decide what I want to do. This is the real struggle, that I'm just like, it's like for background, but what do I want to do to kind of break that up? I'm trying to decide. There's part of me that kind of just wants just stamp shattered on here to start with, to kind of, let's pull out my mouse pad because it stamps better when you stamp onto the mouse pad. I'm grabbing, I think, the block that came with it. If it fits, this might be the block that came with it. I might have a bigger block. This will work just fine. All right, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mist it with some water off to the side so I don't get water everywhere. And I think I'm gonna go gray. So we're gonna grab the gray pencil or crayon or whatever it is. See, and the only problem is I live in Florida and I got a ceiling fan going. I need to make sure I get this done before it dries on the stamp. Let's pull this over. I'm gonna stamp it going like so. And it doesn't matter if it's not perfect, because again, we're just creating collage fodder, stuff to use in our backgrounds. Ooh, I think I'm liking it a little bit better now that I did that. I think I'm gonna do some of this section again to stamp here and try and get some on the edges. I'm gonna spritz again off to the side. Might be able to get some second generation stamping from this. Let's see what happens if I do this. Not too bad. That made that less noticeable hard line there. All right, I think we need more pencil on there. All right, I think that has done a lot to help fix this one so that the splooshy, like the streakiness of it, is less bothersome. Still want to do a little bit more on here. And I think I know what I want to do. Let me clean the stamp off. I think what I want to do, let's see how well this works, is grab, actually, I'm thinking, as I'm doing this, I'm changing my mind, because I was gonna grab Simon Says stamp and do it kind of across and try and line up the colors, but now I'm thinking I've got another one by Simon Says Stamp that is a more solid one, and we'll see how well these guys do with a clear stamp. And this is a clear stamp I don't know that I've ever used. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pick the stamp up. We're gonna go like this so we know which is going where, and actually I need to wet it. And we're gonna try and put a tone on tone, if I can remember which ones were which. That's the real problem here. I don't remember which colors I used. Let's do some of this blue on this guy. That's kind of cool. I kind of like that. Wish I'd pressed a little bit more down here, but I'm okay with that. I am okay with that. Let me clean off the stamp. I think I'm just gonna do a little bit more. Do I want to stick with the purples? Or do I want to like pull the blue in and I'm just gonna pick some random colors. Because why not? This guy. And this is why I bought these, was for doing stamping techniques, like watercolor stamping techniques. That one I got. That was very wet because I didn't do as far. Let's pull a little bit of that off. Okay with that dripping down a bit. Let's hit it with the heat tool. I like this a lot better than I did. Definitely more interest for using for background. So I'm going to set it aside so it can dry the rest of the way. And let's pull over this one, which I did with watercolor paints. And I am going to use inks for stamping on this because it's tissue, so it's very soft. I don't want to add too much more liquid to it, so put these back for now, and we're gonna pull out, I think I want to use archival inks so that it'll be permanent, and I don't want like the intensity level of my VersaFine Clairs. So I'm gonna grab all right, so I've got archival ink and Hickory Smoke, Dusty Concord, and Picked Raspberry. I think are going to work the best color-wise with this to get some like tone-on-tone backgroundy stamping going on. So first things first, I'm going to grab a script stamp. And this is a very old Stampendous script stamp, and I'm going to do it in Hickory Smoke. And we're not going to worry about how well of an impression we get. We're just going to stamp away. And I'm not worried about the fact that we see the pattern repeating, because the plan would be to rip this up and use it in pieces so that you wouldn't have the same thing on the same page. Now I'm actually going to pull out another scripty stamp, and this is from Faded Type CMS 397. And stamp this guy in the pink, but I'm not going to bother putting it on the block. So I'm going to ink it up. We're going to just see how this picked raspberry shows up on here. Like that. Now, I think what I'm going to do is grab these Creative Expressions Meadow Beauty CEC1031. I know Creative Expressions has gone out of business, so I don't know if you can still find these out in the wild, but I am not going to stop using stuff. And in fact, since I don't think I've ever used these, I'm not going to not use my stamps because other people can no longer get them, because that's just craziness. All right, so I'm going to use a block for this. Now with your stamps, especially like your clear stamps, the more you use them and like get them inky, usually the better impression you can get. So yeah, that came out better than that one. And I'm And by sticking with colors that are similar to the ones already on the piece, I'm making it so that the stamping is more backgroundy than focal image. Now there are also some numbers in that set that I think I'm going to pull out and stamp around in both colors, just to kind of fill in some of the gap areas. All right, I think I'm happy with that. So that just has a bit more interest. I'm not sure, like, because I can see the texture from the bubble wrap. I'm not sure how well that's going to hold up once I put this down. And the back even looks cool, although your numbers are backwards that way. But yeah, so that guy is done. And I want to do one more. And this also is a tissue paper. And actually, good grief, did I do like many layers of this the tissue? So I've got like two really faded pale tissue pieces that, yeah, are just gonna get, I don't know what I'm gonna do with those. All right, I think I'm gonna do a different scripty background in gray. Also another really old Stampendous stamp. And I'm not gonna bother with the block because I can already feel it's not sticking to the block. So we are just gonna all right, now I'm trying to decide what I want to do color wise, because I could pull out colors and keep it tone on tone, or I could stick with the gray, choose a different gray, and see what we can get. Let's see what other stamps I have out. I'm kind of wondering if this wouldn't be a good choice to just kind of do a cross and then fill in with the other flowers. You know what, I think that's what I may do, and I'll do it in the gray so that it's nice and neutral. Like maybe fill in, there's a stamp with leaves, add some more leaves in. This is going to be a matter of being very judicious because it's very much a stalk, so I'm going to try and stick to just inking the leaves so that I can just add some like floating leaves without that, which was what I was trying to avoid, but apparently did not do a good enough job of. I think I like this. I think I can live with this and
find this one usable, so that's gonna get set off to the side. The last one we've got is this guy that I was just not sure what I wanted to do on. And I'm kind of wondering if I don't just want to do the other one from that Simon Says stamp set. And actually maybe do it here so that it'll cover some of that white. And I'm thinking I want to pull out my Misty and get this to stamp well and use the VersaFine Clair on it. All right. Should be okay, because, or not, that came up completely. This mat is not staying sticky very well these days. Let me clean that off. I'll be back. Give it a clean. It's still not being very sticky, but I shifted the magnets down a little bit, so hopefully it'll work. Plus, now that we've got the stamp in place, because it's sticky because it's not been used before, so that's part of why it was like pulling up the whatchamacallit very easily. So, and this is not the right ink. That was not the ink I wanted to use. And I'm definitely going to be restamping this, but I knew that. That's why I pulled out the Misty, because clear stamp, first time being stamped, solid clear stamp, you're going to have some issues with it not stamping all the way. If you don't have a Misty, what you may want to do if you're using a solid clear stamp is stamp it a couple times on just like scratch paper, so that you can basically prime the stamp so that it will stamp. I don't know why that corner is not inking very well at all. I like that. I think I'm happy with that, so we can pull it out. And so yeah, this is more focally, but I could still put stuff on it. Like I could trim it down and then add like a fussy cut, like a fairy child, or add some butterflies. So it's still not a finished piece, but this leans more towards finished piece than collage fodder, but I still kind of like it. And I like, you know, the effect that we got. All right, I'm gonna have a clean up. I'm gonna check and see if our bubble wrap guys are done, and then I'll be back. Okay, so our bubble wrap ones are done and dry. So this is one using the regular size bubble wrap. And I know I use sparkly sprays, but you can't, it's not, I think it's showing up as this being more gloss than matte. So we've got that one. The copy paper did not do so great at retaining any of the texture. Maybe a little bit over here. But yeah, so that one did not turn out fabulous. The teeny tiny bubble wrap one actually did work better with the copy paper. So this one's on copy paper and you can see the texture from that. And I really like how this one came out. This is the green and brown, and the brown kind of went a little purpley, and some of the areas in the green went a little blue. So the colors we got were a little unique. I think that's from the Oxides. But you can definitely see the bubble wrap's imprint. And my favorite is the big bubble wrap. Look at how cool this came out. This is going to be a fun background to play with. The tracing paper with the greens, again, I got blue in the, and that's the Oxides doing that, but you can also flip it over and get that side, which is still kind of cool, although not as textury as this side. And then my teal color combo. I love this. I really like the big bubble wrap. I'm going to be playing more with that. Thinking some coffee dyeing with it. See what happens there. So those are our bubble wrap experiments. And here are the other pieces we did where we added some stamping. So we stamped on that one, and that one, and that one, and this one. And then we did the blowing bubble technique on this guy. And I've been editing the footage. I realized I did do the bubble technique on this one, but the paper was just not sturdy enough to hold up and just got sodden. And then we had one more. And this guy, which we left alone. This is the other half of that one, which we left alone because I really liked that technique bit there, or the results there. Are the ones we did the Dr. P.H. Martins and just kind of scribbled, and I really like how they turned out. This was the bubble wrap experiment ones that I did off camera. And then this piece where I drew in gold pen, which hopefully is showing up on camera. So that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, please do all the things that lets YouTube know you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave me a comment down below. Thanks for joining me, and happy crafting.